figure out your, which device or whatever. For those that haven't met me, because I haven't been in every room, my name's Adam Allenberg. I am a graduate of the Rabbinic program and the School of Education. What I didn't share the other day is that I'm actually like a Southerner and a Midwesterner who found myself relocated to California, largely because of the teachers that were on this campus at that time. I'm now still in Los Angeles, but I married my beloved who is from here, and so I'm now one of those. And also I want to invite my colleague Rabbi Rachel Maimin to introduce herself, because I don't know which rooms who's been where, but it'd be wonderful to introduce.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Maimin. Like Adam, I was also ordained at HUC, but in New York, which is where I am sitting now. I grew up in a small town in rural Western Massachusetts and made my way to many Northeastern cities, but sit here now. And I also want to make sure to introduce our colleague, Michelle.
Oh, all of them know me already, but hello, everybody. I'm so glad you've come back all week long. It's been very exciting to see all of you show up in the different rooms all week long. So thank you so much for joining us. And I was just wondering if anybody here wanted to raise their hand and say who attended the worship service today. Oh, good. A great number. Awesome. All right. Well,
you get your minion points for showing up, everyone. And I apologize, it was in the chat and I sort of missed it, but then I went looking for a copy of Mishkan Tefillah, the Siddur that we use on campus. And I think even the synagogues that are linking to these don't know that they've been taken down. So a good reminder for our future reference that we have to find a way to make that available, because the CCR has ceased to make it available. They still are alive and well. So I want to start with a question that came up the other day, but then I'd love to invite people to raise your hands or drop them in the chat if there are things that you're thinking of. Again, reflections are welcome, not only questions. But the question that came up the other day was about what we often call concurrent degrees, meaning opportunities to study in additional programs. And so I just wanted to sort of clarify some of that for you. First of all, we have this wonderful arrangement that most students aren't able to take advantage of because they're already taking advantage of other things, but you're actually allowed to take 2 courses in any other school without enrolling in the program, because you're already a student at HUC. So if you said, well, I don't need a degree in Jewish nonprofit management, but I would like to take fundraising, that is an option. And so that's one way that people kind of satisfy the multidisciplinary kind of training that they're seeking during rabbinical school. In a more official capacity, we have students who choose to enroll in the Zellico School of Jewish Nonprofit Management, where you can earn either a certificate, that's 1 summer, or a master's, which is a full 2 summers and courses in between. And as with most master's programs, it includes a capstone project. It includes an internship experience, which we would make sure was aligned with other rabbinical training. These are things we've been doing for years, and there are a few of our graduates out there who've actually done all 3 kind of major schools at once. Some people just love learning. In which case they also enroll in our School of Education to earn a master's in Jewish education, religious education, as some of it used to be called. In the last few years, it's been our master's in educational leadership, but the focus is really the same, regardless of how we're branding it. And that is to dig deep, not just into the skills of a classroom, but also the theories and ideologies guiding Jewish education, both historically and contemporarily, to become great curriculum designers, to become great curriculum critics, to learn how to train others to be great teachers. And the stuff that I think is probably, again, if you're to take a class, I think one of the things that's most valuable is what is unique about teaching the subjects of Jewish life that is different than teaching them in other settings. Hebrew, Tanakh, Jewish history, each of those really has its own kind of specialization, and the School of Education provides opportunities to explore that. So that's sort of in a nutshell. All of that remains an option. We've made some announcements about changes to our programs and the ways things go. Sometimes these feel very dramatic in the public, and the truth is we are a place that is always evolving and always changing degrees and always changing curriculum, because that is what good education looks like. And we don't anticipate taking away any opportunities for our rabbinic students to gain all the access that they desire and all the experience and training that they want. Rachel, anything you want to add to what no? Okay.
No, I would just wonder at what questions are lingering for you or are percolating, or what new questions are on your mind after however many sessions and however many days you've been a part of this journey this week.
I see Harish dropped a question into the chat here. HUC typically is training our students to work out of Mishkan Tefillah, which is the North American Reform Siddur, but it's not a requirement that you lead from that Siddur. And in fact, I've been to many a service led by our students where they use classical Reform liturgy from the 19th century to kind of make a point or to, expose the community. I've seen us use non-denominational Siddurim, the Reconstructionist Siddur, and I don't know the New York prayer space as well as I'd like to, although I have been lucky enough to pray there many times. But in Los Angeles, our campus Beit Midrash and where we pray, where many of you saw today, what you couldn't see is there's a whole shelf of books, like a library behind the camera. And there is a strange tradition in the LA campus, I don't know where it started, that many students actually stand behind those shelves. They don't like to be seated while they pray. So there were probably another like 10 or 12 people in the room today, but you wouldn't know that because they're in the back swaying and they're tefillin and I don't know. But on those bookshelves are multiple copies of some of the Siddurim I just mentioned. There's an LGBTQ synagogue from San Francisco that published its own Siddur many years ago called Sha'ar Zahav, named after their synagogue, and we have their Siddur. We actually have copies of the Reconstructionist Siddur in our Beit Midrash. So we really want to allow people, we want people to feel comfort and mastery over the liturgy that people are most familiar with and that people are serving, but it's not a requirement that you only pray or lead from it. Other questions? Yeah, Jacob.
I noticed throughout the week that the class sizes definitely varied based on like the level or the place people were in their journeys. Is that typical, that fluctuation? Is that typical as folks navigate throughout the years at HUC?
I would say it's most typical, and I'd love to hear Rabbi Maimin speak on this too, but I think it's most typical when you get into your upper level courses, what we often sort of categorically just call electives, because you can take them in whatever order you like. They may not be required courses. We also have students who are doing independent studies, either to satisfy a requirement or to satisfy a curiosity, or both, I suppose. And so you will see class sizes fluctuate. We also just really like smaller seminar style classes because it allows for a lot more back and forth in the class.
Yeah, I mean, I think about among those electives or upper level classes, when I was in school, there were some that maxed out and where people had to wait a year to take it. And there were, the smallest class I was in was me and one other student. And the professor still runs the class because even when they're small, more often than not. And it was an amazing opportunity to be able to learn. I learned the Megillot, the scrolls, with one other student and a professor. And it was an amazing experience. So it really does does vary, especially once you get out of the once you move to the next level out of the core curriculum.
I'll just say too, the core curriculum as we're thinking of it, which is actually the older curriculum, although it's still somewhat true in terms of sequencing. There's a new curriculum coming next year, so we'll have more updates even in a short period of time. Most of us are kind of busiest in coursework in years, well, 1, 2, and 3. And it's not that you cease being busy in years 4 and 5. That is definitely not the case. But there's a lot more freedom and mobility within your own schedule, within the course catalog, because it's where people really start to specialize in the things that they are, have discovered a passion. What is the average size of the core curriculum classes? I mean, it really depends on how many people are in a particular class, but it can be anywhere from 10 to 15 people in your cohort on your campus. When you're in Jerusalem, those classes are a little bigger, especially the rabbinic seminar, which is every rabbinic student in the same class. So that's a much bigger class. But the advantages of kind of dividing our students into campuses is that we're able to shrink that down and give everyone a chance to really receive an awful lot of attention. By the way, something you said reminded me of my my Ketuvim class with Dr. Eskenazi, where she would break up that Dr. Eskenazi of the Women's Torah Commentary. And she would break up our time together with kind of part lecture and then part student presentations. And so we were expected to be the ones to do the deep dive and present to the class. And it was both an opportunity to be teacher and be critiqued by, a world-renowned expert on that teaching. And also, I think to give our classmates a sort of a sense of what is the Torah that we are most attracted to? What are the things that we are lifting up? How are our voices part of the tradition? And I found it to be a really wonderful balance of things I needed to know and also things that people who care about this wanted me to know.
Rachel, yeah.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you again so much for hosting us this week. It's been really wonderful. Jumping back to concurrent degrees, well, I guess as some context for this question, I understand that how students get placed on a particular campus at HUC has evolved over time, and that's a fairly individualized conversation. But I'm wondering if choosing to do a concurrent program, both of which happen to be based out of Los Angeles, locks you into the Los Angeles campus, or if there's an opportunity to, for example, do one of the concurrent programs in Los Angeles and study rabbinics in New York.
A great question. And this is one that continues to also evolve. So I'll just say that the Zellico School actually moved itself online just this last summer. Permanently is a word, how can Jews ever use the word permanent? But the program is now designed to be 5 to 7 days in person in Los Angeles, and then everyone returns to their home and does the remainder online. So the Z School definitely remains a kind of do it from anywhere kind of opportunity. The School of Education really has been through a number of iterations over the years. And I think it's hard to answer precisely what that would look like going forward, just because as of Tuesday, we made this announcement that we're changing that program. But by the end of this academic year, I think I'll have a clearer answer. My suspicion is that it will be something that's really integrated into the calendar of the rabbinic and cantorial programs as they stand, which, if I were to guess, will mean that it will also be available from any campus. In the same way that the Z School kind of found that the students it was looking for were not able to come to LA for 7 weeks every summer. And then when we made the change, we got all the students that we were looking for. I don't just mean numbers, I mean the kinds of people that the program is designed for. And the same I think is absolutely true for the School of Education. We have a program that we love to do in person because we're old school that way. We like in-person learning, but we also know that there are a lot of people who want access that haven't had it, it hasn't been easy for them to access. And so the changes that are coming are really about increasing access. So sorry for the fuzzy answer around School of Ed, but talk to me in like 4 months and I'll have a way better answer.
Well, good. Thank you. And thank you for clarifying my understanding of what's based where currently.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's an evolving thing. What is permanence? I'm not really sure, but for us, it's about meeting the right students in the right place. And as much as pandemic kind of liberated all of us, that's not the rule that's guiding us. It's really about the right students, and then what can we do to maximize their access. As a graduate of the Master's in Education, I just have to say this is what we call wait time. We just wait. We just wait comfortably. Rabbi Maimin, you were going to say something?
No.
Oh.
No. I can wait out the best of them also.
I feel like you guys aren't asking the right question, which is how many of you in this room are planning to apply this cycle or this year? And some of you already have, but. And are there questions related to that? Is it all pretty straightforward?
I would like some more clarification on the different rounds of application, but also I think Elizabeth has a question pending in the chat.
I think it's she'll continue writing it. So go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, just looking back at the deadlines for the application, I saw that there were multiple rounds, and depending on the round that you apply, that determines when the interview might happen. And I understand, like, within the past few years, y'all have moved to a rolling application basis, but is there a benefit of applying in one round versus another? If we apply in a later round, do we run the risk of a particular class being out of seats? Like, what's your recommendation?
It's a great question, and we certainly don't. Our intention is not to sow confusion by creating, opportunities. So let's just start with the concern, and then I'll back into the sort of how is it helpful to apply later or earlier. We have enough seats for as many students as want to apply, and we deem, ready and appropriate for our program. So as I tell everyone, you're not competing against anyone else but yourself, which in some ways is much more pressure. Or less pressure. I don't know. It depends on the person. Scholarship dollars are available for all of you, for everyone who applies and is admitted. So it does not affect scholarship dollars that are available. Really, the biggest difference is the sanity in your life and the time that you need to plan in order to make what we fully recognize as a big life change, not just, going back to school, but moving to Jerusalem in order to do so. We historically offered admissions starting in December, so it's not that big of a difference from what we're doing now. But the FAFSA, the federal loans program for those who are citizens of the US, their process has changed and it's not available until December. It used to be available October 1st. So we're trying to also just recognize that we like to have all the answers all at once, and we're not able to do that, especially if the federal government is 2 months or more behind us. That being said, we try to, at the same time that we deliver your admissions decision, we try to also align whether or not you've received any merit scholarship. And then need-based scholarship is dispersed all together in April. So you might receive part of your scholarship package early, and then the rest of it would come later.
Adam, I just want to add to that, that the one difference I think this year is that we are going back to in-person interviews, but not for all of our sessions, or not for all of our interview slots. So for example, if you want to interview in person in Los Angeles, you can do so in January. Or if you want to interview in person in New York, you can in March. So if that's something that's really important to you, still apply early, and then we can set an interview slot for you for that time that you want to come.
So I want to double click on what Michelle just said, which is to say that let's say you submit your application in December, but the January interview dates don't work for you. Still submit your application. If you're ready to submit your application in December, no need to wait. You'll get to request you get to request your interview dates. And so I just wanted to name that also, that it's not a necessity that the December application goes to January interview date, the January application goes with a February interview date, etc. Lainey.
For the in-person interviews, does it matter which campus you go to interview? Like, does that determine where you end up?
No.
Okay, cool. So it's just
That's
like whatever it's for you.
A separate request after that is not a part of the application process. The request of campus is something that occurs after admission.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And if it helps, you'll work with me the whole time through your interview process. So you at least know the person you're going to be talking to now.
We'll be there too, but
Oh,
in the interview.
yeah. Oh, they'll be there too, I guess. But so Adam or Rachel, the question that Elizabeth posed.
Yeah, so Elizabeth's asking about electives, and if there's kind of a requirement of what those electives look like. The answer is there are categories, that courses fit into, let's say a rabbinic text category or a practical rabbinics category, but that's as much as we define. You need X number of courses in rabbinics in order to graduate, but you really do specialize in the ways that you want to specialize. That's part of how our program is designed. And again, if the thing that you want to take isn't being offered because that professor's on sabbatical, we work with our students to come up with opportunities for independent study, to see if there are other students who want that, and maybe to hire an adjunct or to bring back someone who used to teach a course similar. We really feel like it's our responsibility to help you. Yes, of course, get a broad and deep education, but we need to follow your lead on the areas that you want greater depth. And if you aren't sure, believe me, you'll have plenty of people weighing in with their opinions on, oh, you should take this, you should do more of this, have you considered this? We used to joke that, enough mentors already. That was like a thing we would say, like, I'm so grateful to have all these mentors. I just don't have enough time to meet with all 6 of them, It's not 6, that was hyperbole.
Depends on the year.
Also true, yeah.
I'm curious, what were areas that you focused on, Adam?
So when I was in school, there was not a CPE requirement. And I wasn't interested in CPE, but I remember thinking, I actually really want to feel some fluency, or at least literacy, maybe not fluency, in hospital spaces. So I took this wonderful course called The Rabbi in the Hospital that was focused on like, what is a rabbi's role in that space? And then I didn't have the same kind of intensity of a CPE placement, but I was placed at the oncology wing of UCLA Hospital and met with a chaplain there who kind of walked me through it. And by my second visit, I was like doing impromptu prayers with people hooked up to chemo. And, it gave me the literacy I was seeking. I also, admittedly, I had teachers that I was really excited to learn with, many of whom were theologians or theologically inclined, scholars. And so I took kind of every opportunity I could to talk about God or to talk about not God. And my favorite of which was a class called, I laugh every time I say it because it's hard to say, I loved this class called Pain and Suffering, but it was a really powerful class. It was taught by Dr. Rachel Adler, an unbelievable theologian. And I still rely on a lot of that material like every day, especially these days. What about you?
Yeah, I couldn't have defined it going in, but thankfully after I went into one of my professors, Rabbi Larry Hoffman's office, and was like, I can't figure this out. I don't know how to put courses together. How do I do this? And he helped me craft a vision for what we called a big ideas curriculum. So that was my goal in the second half of fourth year and fifth year, was to think about like, what are big ideas that I'm interested in exploring, and who were the people who were going to help me to ask more questions. So I did a lot of those courses. And then I also am really a lover of music. And so I took a number of courses in the cantorial school as well.
That's cool.
And or courses that I took a couple courses that are cantorial classes, and then I took a couple courses that are taught by cantorial faculty for rabbinical students, like life cycle music for rabbis, things like that. I see Alex.
Oh, wait, you reminded me of something I have to say, which is I just remembered I took a class in the Zellico School with the then director, Dr. Stephen Windmuller, and this little known local rabbi at the time, who was a wonderful social justice activist named Rabbi Sharon Brous, who like nobody knew. And we studied with Sharon and Stephen all about the ways that Jewish communal organizations like change the world, basically.
Cool.
And it was really, I felt like I was on the ground floor of something really exciting. So Alex is asking about the timing of awards and how that affects things. So our final enrollment date is May 1st. So you do have time to wait if that is the concern. We also are always happy to, in the sense that we need to accommodate, to let people defer, if it changes the math. Also, life happens, which I think we're all painfully aware of all the time. And so even sometimes after May 1st, someone comes to us and says, oh my God, I cannot leave for Israel right now. My dad is sick. I got to be here. We will work with you. We're not going to start sending you bills and collections agent. That's not the kind of place we are. It's not the kind of program we run. And I'll also just say that, finances also change, and therefore need changes. And I always like to tell people, I try to remind students who have been here for a while, you can always appeal for more aid, because life changes on you, and you might have been flush with cash because you, I don't know, cashed out of some startup that you were a part of. That has happened a couple times. And then, life happens and your funds get depleted and now you need help. And we know that, we expect it. And, don't think that just because you receive a letter, there's no conversation to be had. Yeah, glad that helped.
So I want to be mindful of the time. Michelle, did we call this for a half hour, this session? Or a full hour?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Great. I wasn't sure. Excellent. Other questions or other things that you would just like to hear about? Questions about the application process, questions about the program, questions about anything you encountered this week, ideas that are resonating with you, that are bouncing around in your brain from all the learning of the week, or in the rest of your body. Ideas don't only bounce around in our brains. There's a question in the chat about the
Oh, I
hybrid
love this
program.
question. I actually do have some updates, depending on when, people last spoke to me or to us about it. So for those that don't know, we're currently, because we can't leave well enough alone, we're in the design phase of a hybrid rabbinical program that will be periodically in person, but mostly online, which is attractive for all kinds of reasons, and some have told me very unattractive for certain reasons. To each their own. As I was saying before, we're really trying to meet the right students where they are, as much as possible. So here's where we are in the hybrid sort of design process. I anticipate that in this coming spring of 24, we'll be inviting people to register for a prerequisite class that will bear credit for this new program. And it will be a single class whose purpose is really to help working professionals, people who are in the field in some form or another, determine if they have the bandwidth and the kind of like mental capacity with all that they're already juggling to be in a program. So it's sort of a try before you buy opportunity, but it will also be a requirement if you do plan to apply, to take that prerequisite course. And then we'll, from there, open up admissions in fall of 24 to begin in summer of 25. So we're about a year and a half away from that program, like launching, the first course of the program. But actually by fall of 24 will be those first applicants will be learning together in a Zoom room with our faculty, and with one another. At this stage, we're really thinking of the first probably 2 cohorts as people who are going to be our co-creators. They'll be piloting this program with us, just as we designed the Executive Masters in Jewish Education about, give or take, 15 years ago, where we went to people who are great educators in the field and had amazing placements in the field, but maybe were not yet credentialed or trained. And we built the program with them. And so thankfully, we're also bringing a lot of the lessons of that program into the design of this one. So that first and second cohort will likely be people who have a great deal of Jewish learning experience and some significant experience, either professionally or lay, in the Jewish community, but real, true leadership experience. The Hebrew requirement, though I can't tell you, what it is. It will be greater than the entry for the Year in Israel program, because there's this sort of assumption that you're going to be able to enter at a place where you're ready to take Bible courses already, and be given translation work on your first day of class, which we do not expect of you on the Year in Israel program. By the end of the Year in Israel program, we expect it of you, but not on day one of the program. People have asked me a lot of questions that I don't know the answers to, so I just want to name those. I don't know the length of the program, in part because the people that we know are interested, some of them are cantors who have already trained at HUC and took some of the courses that are the same. Others took courses at other institutions or have spent years studying at Pardes or Hadar or Svara, and they're not entering with nothing, but they may not have a transcript that is a direct, correlation Bible 1 to Bible 1. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure how long the program will be for each student. I also don't yet know what the financial aid and scholarship opportunities will be. I have a suspicion it will look like our residential program, but I don't know that for certain yet. And the faculty in our school will be the faculty of that program. There will be in-person components, sometimes on a campus, one of our campuses, sometimes, in Atlanta or Toronto, or I don't know, name a great Jewish community that's worth bringing people together and exploring, We have a wonderful relationship. I don't know that people know this, and we're not always great at reminding everyone. We have an amazing relationship with JDC Entwine. They actually have a competitive fellowship that's only for our students. Unlike things like the Nachshon Project or what used to be the Wexner, that was available to really anyone applying to a Jewish graduate program of any kind. The Weitzman JDC Fellowship is just for our students, those who are headed to Israel at least. And I think there's an opportunity for our hybrid program to visit some of the amazing communities that the JDC works with, to lift those up and to tell a greater story of Jewish peoplehood. And, like this is the kind of blue sky stuff that we're doing at this design stage that we're really excited about. If it's online, what can we do differently that we've always dreamt of doing? Hope that answers the question. Yeah, Nashville. All right, great. Nashville. And then
As long as there's good food, I'm in too. I know there's good food in Nashville. I'm curious to hear, you've heard a lot of us talking this week, and we'd really like to open the space to hear your voices also, and to hear about what stood out to you this week, something new that you hadn't thought about before, an interesting question that came up in a session that you're still like, that's kind of interesting, I'm still thinking about this, or something that's sitting in your heart in any way. Curious what we're always looking to learn from our experiences also, and we'd love to hear from you. And feel free if you'd like to unmute and share. Fabulous. If you'd like to share in the chat, that's great. If you'd prefer to share one-on-one, we welcome private comments as well. We can share them anonymously, but we really want to hear what's lingering with you right now, in any sense of that word. Yeah, Elizabeth, please.
There were a few things that stood out right away. One, I really loved the diversity of the alumni and the current students that we got to engage with, and the questions that we got to ask and get answers for. One particular moment that's really standing out to me is sitting in on a Ketuvim class and really getting to immerse, as we would as students, in a textual analysis. I think it spawned some really great conversations both in that moment and in that class. But I think, speaking for myself, it definitely gave me a lot of great room for great conversations outside of it, which I think shows the duality of what it means to be a rabbinical school student and also a Jew in the world. It was a really, really great experience. That was really appreciated.
That's so cool. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, Professor Fisher Livna is really quite special.
Not to give away too much, but I do want to just name Dr. Fisher Livna is a regular on our admissions committees. And so you can imagine also just the kind of conversations that we're having in that space with such a talented teacher.
I really enjoyed the history seminar this afternoon. I just kind of realized I miss being in school and learning, and it got me really excited.
I love that, and I so resonate with that. I have to say, I feel like there's at least one time a week when I am listening to a podcast or sitting in on some learning session or having a deep conversation when I feel that urge also, I miss school. There's something really just special about that environment. Harish, yeah.
Yeah. So all these sessions catapulted me back to my German studies thing, with Adam's subject, yesterday or day before, I forget. I was thinking of my philosophy class, and with today's session, I went into my history of literature because, like sometimes it was like in literature, there was such heavy stuff to think about and deal with. So I'm like, okay, I'm back to university.
I love that. And Harish, what you make me think of is right, when we come to when any group of people comes together to study Torah, right? We all bring our full selves with us. And so, you know, whether we have backgrounds in science or in German or in literature or in philosophy or in engineering or in marketing or whatever or Jewish studies, whatever the case may be, right? Like, and our life experiences, and how cool to be integrating those already.
There's one thing, I had Kant in philosophy and I couldn't understand him.
Yeah, you're not the only one. You join a long, distinguished line of people who don't understand Kant.
Oh, I just want to read Alex's comment out loud if I can. If Alex, if that's okay. I have a new stack of books to read, and I cracked the spine on Back to the Sources this week. We highly recommend. Oh, thanks, Alex. I jumped in without waiting for your approval. Yeah, Back to the Sources, amazing book this week. In the section on reading the Bible has really changed the way I'm going to read Torah. Yeah, I had just reread Genesis and Exodus, and the author pointed out elements of parallelism, the importance of wordplay in Hebrew, and
I can keep reading if you want.
And recurring themes that I totally missed on my reread. I'm looking forward to engaging with the text in more impactful ways. Yeah. By the way, I also like to recommend Who Wrote the Bible by Richard Elliott Friedman, which will also mess with you a fair amount. Sorry, Michelle.
Oh, you're fine. I just wanted to say that I want to lift up Alex. He's been in every session this week, even though he's been unwell. And he's had very thoughtful comments and things to share throughout. So thank you, Alex, for being part of this, even though you were not feeling well.
And I just want to say, and this is there's no knock to anyone else, but it's 4:45 here in New York, which is like a totally great time to be on Zoom. And Harish, what time is it for you? You're muted. Will you unmute yourself?
It's 2:14 a.m.
So I just want to give a shout out to Harish also for being here literally in the middle of the night, and to all of us for our not only showing up, but also showing up in the sense of really being present together. Joey, you were starting to unmute yourself.
Well, I was going to wish Alex refuah shlema. I've not been able to make, this is my first session I've been able to make. I wanted to catch it on the tail end. I had all the sessions in my calendar, and we actually, I work at, I run the Hillel in St. Louis, Maryville University, and we brought in a Holocaust survivor who was so energetic that he wanted to give more than one presentation. So this past week, it took him around town, and he gave 9 different presentations. And I hope it's good enough reason to miss the rest of these sessions, but I was glad to be able to make this one. And I hope if the rest of them are recorded, I hope to check them out in the future.
We recorded everything, Joey, except for the 2 classes that were this week, just because we didn't have control of those or the students' consent. So we just wanted to make sure. But everything else that we've put on through the Aura team has been recorded, and I'll share that all tomorrow. So you'll get an email with all the links to the recordings.
Great, and look forward to connecting more with fellow prospective students and the staff.
Joey, I was on campus of the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, and also the University of Wisconsin in Madison last week. I just want to say thank you, like what you're doing on campus right now for all of the Jewish students and faculty and folks who feel really invisible during this time. It's so important what you're doing. So yeah, we'll send you recordings. You were making the right choice. Not that you needed my permission, but I just wanted to endorse your thinking.
So
Harish asked a question in
I-
the chat.
But just before that, I unfortunately need to hop off. And I'm putting in the chat both my email and my Calendly link. And I would love to set up time if we haven't already. If we have spoken, I've spoken with many of you. It's so nice to see so many faces of folks I've already gotten to know a bit. I'm around if you have follow-up questions or conversations, as I know is Adam, and I'm going to let you take it away and finish up. But it's been so good to be together this week, and wishing you all an early Shabbat Shalom, and may we find some peace in these difficult times, each of us in our own ways.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rachel.
Take care, everyone.
And everyone, I'll have Rachel's details in my final email as well with the recording, because she'll be the person you definitely want to talk to this week or next or the week after. So.
Well, yeah, I'm also watching and thinking about how late it is. So I'll answer Harish's question about other recommended books, I think was the question. Yes. And and then maybe we'll sort of wrap up and just say farewell to one another a little early. So my answer is a little bit of a cop-out, but not really. It's really how I like to talk with folks in your position. The first is I really want to encourage people, if you're not already familiar with the weekly portion or you're not studying in some kind of regular way, not only to do that, but really to I love Sefaria. I'm not going to knock Sefaria, but I want you to find a translation that you can kind of work your way through in its entirety, so you can start to uncover some of what these scholars are saying in Back to the Sources and other places. That translation is commentary. And I understand the Hebrew, but when I teach, I lay out all kinds of both commentaries and different translations, because they open up questions for me as a learner, but also just as someone who's looking to hear the voice that will speak to me in that given week. And similarly, again, not meant to be a cop-out, I really want to encourage people to find a siddur that they love, to find a prayer book that really speaks to you, and take it with you everywhere. Doesn't matter what kind of synagogue it is. I have prayed with an Ashkenazi siddur in a Sephardi Shabbat mincha. Was I pretty lost? I was, but I also had kind of my own anchor in that I really knew my own siddur, and it's where I knew what I needed to say based on my siddur. So you'll have many siddurim throughout your life, but I think that's a place where I want to encourage you to dig deep and feel a sense of rootedness in a piece of liturgy. Right now, I thought I was going to be able to show it off to you, but it seems to have walked away. Nope. Right now, I'm loving the Israeli Reform siddur. It's fairly new. It was released in the last year. And in classic sort of, early Reform Judaism in Israel looked like American Reform in translation, or even like European Reform in translation. But that has changed, and Israeli Reform Jews have really embraced and kind of taken their own way with it. And so their new siddur is filled with Israeli song and poetry, and Hebrew song and poetry, even sort of pre-Israel, many pre-Israel things that they are offering as prayer, that they offer as liturgy as much as they offer, the Shema as liturgy. And I'm loving it. It's like completely opened up my eyes liturgically. And again, I feel pretty darn literate, but to see it with a new set of kind of lenses forces me to go, what is this siddur trying to agitate in me? What's it trying to bring out in my own prayer life? So those are my recommendations, is find a translation that kind of excites you and use that for your regular study, and also to find a siddur that speaks to you. And if you have trouble with those things, you can reach out to Rabbi Maimin or myself, and we'll we'll walk you through the whole bookshelf of things that we've relied on over the years. Well, I do want to honor people's time, and I realize we're getting to the end of it. I just want to echo Rachel's comments and Michelle's for being with us this week, for making this a priority in what are undoubtedly very busy lives, and during a time when it's not so easy to show up for anything. At least I'm speaking for myself. So I'm just really grateful that you've all been here and that you've gotten a taste of HUC. I do want to, before we say goodbye, also say that we have funds that are available to help reimburse you for your travel to visit us in person. We can reimburse you up to $250 towards your travel to come to Jerusalem, New York, Cincinnati, Los Angeles, and spend time with us on campus. I highly recommend, if you can afford it, to be with us, on campus for a full day, but then spend a day in that city and see what it's like to just be a person there and imagine your life in that place. Again, be in touch with us, and we're happy to make a personalized schedule for you on campus. Actually, we had a guest on Monday here in Los Angeles who didn't join the virtual open house, but joined us in person on campus. So we're always working in every direction. So do please be in touch. Please take care of yourselves during this challenging time. Take care of your people. And I'm really looking forward to being in touch with all of you in the not too distant future. Wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom.